Every tech company you know about is working on AI, and here are the latest updates.
Hello and welcome to the All Future Podcast, where today we evidently have major AI updates from every major tech company, from what I hear. So
That is what
pretty good lead in here. Multiple topics, multiple things we're going to talk about. As always, I suspect we will go way off the rails with this and not actually follow our outline, but just talk in general about how these companies and this AI is going to affect us.
Yeah.
Because there's some great stuff in here. There's maybe some dark stuff in here, going all over the place. Ryan, lead us off, buddy. What's up?
Well, first up today, we have Google's Gemini robot, which you've heard of Google Gemini. That is their AI generative thing, their ChatGPT competitor.
Yeah, what the heck is this thing?
Yeah. And they also now have a Gemini robot that is powered by this. And so they have a few demos that they show off here. And the big thing with this is that it has what they're referring to as a huge context window. So the multimodal capabilities allow it to store images and remember a lot of things. And so essentially they walk it around an office, tell it, this is my office, this is someone else's office. And then they leave. And then they ask it to guide it to that office, and it's able to do so. It's able to remember what you told it, that input and everything, and actually guide you through a space that is changing a little bit. Like it's adapting to the environment and navigating around it in real time. This is just, it's kind of one of those examples that it's like, okay, yeah, I guess, but it leads to this further discussion of what this kind of thing could be.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I could see it being useful. And one of the demos examples they do, they're showing it around the office. And they're like, this is Lewis's desk. And they go to these other desks and they're like, here's some more temporary desk. So that's the context they gave it. And then old Lewis comes up, I guess. And he's all like, hi, I'm Lewis. Take me to my temporary desk. Which that's a confusing string of inputs with any current kind of system that uses voice commands or something, right? Because you've shown it temporary desk. You've shown it Lewis's desk. Now Lewis is asking for his temporary desk. So it's like, you could see how that would get messed up.
I think I would mess that up.
Yeah, I'd be like, wait, so are you, what desk is yours, right? But that's how people talk that way all the time. Very nuanced and ambiguous. Like, that's just how people communicate things. So you need to have these kind of multimodal reasoning that this thing is doing to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And I think even a regular person might ask for clarification. If that's the only information they had, they'd be like, well, I know where your desk is. I assume it's one of the temporary ones, right? But the Gemini here is figuring out, oh, that desk that I saw was Lewis's desk, was in the area with other temporary desks. That's probably his temporary desk. That's where I'm going to take him to. And then it kind of takes him to it. Just off the bat, there's so many practical applications for this sort of thing. I don't know. You think of tour guides or something like that. And that's kind of the demos, like implying it, like almost like a tour guide kind of thing. But a robot that's able to answer and help you with natural language is very cool. Yeah. Right? Like, and that's what this thing's able to do. So, yeah, it's neat.
The next one I'll throw in here real quick is from Sony, and they have a new microsurgery robot, and it's working with like kernels of corn, and it's like stitching it and
that's pretty cool.
Navigating. I think this is one of those applications that's like, I can't really see why this would be a bad thing, because this is maybe a little less on the software side. Obviously, there is software involved, but this is getting the actual robotics down to this fine-tuned level that is probably well beyond human hand level.
It's amazing the things we let humans do. Like, just across the board, right? We're letting these people drive around 1-ton death machines at 90 miles an hour around us, and we're like, oh, cool, that's normal. That happens all the time. We're letting them fly in airplanes, control nuclear arsenals, cut us open, and sew things inside of us, and then sew us back up. What? This is crazy when you think about it. And obviously, the tech isn't fully there yet for things like surgery to completely be taken over by robotics and AI. Yeah. Although there's certainly a lot of AI and robotics already in surgery, but the full takeover is not there yet. Yeah. But once it's nailed down, this is going to be the thing I pick, right? Because I'm like I kind of would rather the robot and its perfect movements and its, perfectly logical brain. Let that thing sew up my heart if it needs to be. Look, man, I know doctors. hung out. I got friends that are doctors. I got 3 doctor cousins. I don't know if I trust any of these people, man. Like, and they're all good doctors or whatever. You know? But it's like, humans are valuable, right? Like, you make mistakes. The most perfect person at something can't get it exactly right all the time.
Yeah.
This thing's cool to me, man. I like it. Hopefully I don't need any kind of heart surgery anytime soon. So by the time I need it, I can opt for the robot. Like, don't give me that doctor, man. Give me the robot.
Yeah, that does lead to an interesting, like, much bigger thing that I won't fully go into, but just like the philosophy of that, there is going to be like the first time a robot performs a surgery and fails on a human being, it's going to be such a huge deal. But even if you look at the numbers comparing it, and it's like way less likely, or it happens way less, that a robot messes this up versus humans, we're still just going to have, it's still, our brains just want to go, no, but I don't trust the numbers. I
assume you see this all the time in the EV space, right? With the autopilot driving, whatever you want to call it, self-driving cars and all this, where there's obviously have been accidents. There's obviously that technology is not fully there yet. I think that's a fair thing to say. But when you actually look at the accident rate, and I know statistics can always be fumbled around and all that kind of stuff, but it does seem to be overall this is a safer thing than humans, but it's a much harder sell.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this robot or this car is driving for you and it's safer. Sounds great. But then it's like, wait, an accident happened though? And even though accidents happen all the time from humans, and it's one of the leading causes of, casualties, it's just, it's a hard sell for us.
It's a hard sell.
So all of this stuff is going to be a hard sell when it's diving into these deep things. And especially since it has to, can't hit the ground running perfectly. It has to get there. So I don't know. We'll see. But this microsurgery robot is very cool. Very cool to see it working on corn. And then eventually we'll see it probably on fake humans and with little wounds that if it messes up, someone can come in and fix it. Yeah. And then probably long term, some real deal stuff.
Cool. Sew me up, robot.
Next comes some news from ChatGPT, or from OpenAI. China is blocking API traffic to OpenAI.
Well,
right?
I believe it is OpenAI is blocking the traffic, the API access to China, right? That direction. Yes.
Great delivery.
Yeah. So opposite there, but either way, no APIs in China. So the result's the same. So ChatGPT is already not available in China. It's never been. Like the actual website, or you can't use it, right? But you could access the APIs. So if you were running an app that is using OpenAI stuff, you could use the API to access it. But evidently they sent an email out saying, hey, that's getting shut down. If you're in China, sorry, you're in, and I think the words they use is you're in a region not currently supported.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Could go a few ways with this. I suspect this is more just legal kind of stuff behind the scenes. I don't think there's some weird ChatGPT's all of a sudden oh my God, we can't let China have access to things, right? I think which I think there is some sentiment for that. But I think this is more just, hey, we should be in line. Like a place that can't use our platform shouldn't also be able to use our API. Let's just get all those things on the same page.
Yeah, probably that. But yeah, there's all sorts of speculation and I guess conspiring or conspiracy theories.
Conspiracies.
Yeah, that because the former head of the NSA joined the OpenAI board, so they're like, oh, well, maybe he was the guy that's like, you got to get rid of this because it involves China or whatever. But it seems likely that it's probably what you're talking about, and just some sort of standardization across the board. And if they're going to enter China in the future, they do it as a whole and do a proper launch of that, working that whole thing out.
Exactly.
Yeah, but also involving OpenAI this week. Very interesting thing. So they have this Q model that they have talked about, which is deep learning, and it's kind of getting us even further down the line towards AGI, is what people have been talking about. And now the code name for this has reportedly changed over to be called Strawberry, and a lot of people are predicting this is just them continuing to work on this kind of reasoning mode. What do you know more about this?
I know that's a terrible code name.
Yeah, Strawberry.
So we're going to go with that from the bat. Hate the code name, guys. Strawberry, what are you doing? And it's still kind of unclear what exactly this is. Even the connection to the, I guess you pronounce that Q. They always do it with an asterisk, like I
Yeah.
don't know, Q star. I've only just read it. I've never heard someone say it, so I don't know what they're.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, whatever. They're kind of the project that was supposedly their AGI project, which is artificial general intelligence, which is the actual thinking machine. Maybe is a way to think about it. I don't know. Like when we think of like true sci-fi AI, like that's AGI is kind of the marketing term for it right now, and behind the scenes things with this is supposedly what has caused rifts within OpenAI. Like when the people talk about their safety concerns or people leave, they don't care about GPT 4.0. That's not the stuff. They're like, oh well, people are getting pie recipes from it. That's not the thing they're concerned with. They're concerned about, I guess, strawberry. Again, maybe they named it that because it sounds much less threatening.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
Yeah. How could a strawberry possibly hurt us? It's like the end of Ghostbusters, right? So, yeah, that's what's going on with this. I'm sure OpenAI and all these companies are attempting to develop advanced models, more than one. I'm sure they have lots of different crazy code names for them. This is just another example of that thing popping up in the news.
Yeah. And it's supposedly like deep research, so it just takes it a lot further than what we're getting right now, which a lot of what we see on the consumer side is kind of like a more advanced version of Googling something. Like it gives you all these answers, and it has mixed reliability, but it's kind of figuring stuff out for you, versus this might be going even further beyond that to where it's figuring out all of this stuff for you and doing the full research, and potentially is more reliable. So to replace all of the, or I guess model after all the things that we would do with our human intuition. So that's the stuff that people are worried about.
Yeah.
And strawberry makes us less worried about it, I think.
I'm like, okay, I love strawberries, man. How could it possibly hurt us?
Yeah.
That's great.
So we've talked Google, Sony, and OpenAI, and next up is Samsung.
We really are hitting all the big tech companies. True to our word. Let's hit them all.
So what do we have from Samsung and AI this week?
So some new AI integration stuff coming. They had their Unpacked event this week, revealed some new hardware, kind of like their standard thing, tech event that they do every year. So if we look at this, I think from Samsung's point of view, when they're coming at this, they're like, hey, Apple just had all this hype with Apple Intelligence. Let's make sure we're answering that. That's the vibe I got from it. And when you look at the things that it will do, it's a lot of kind of in-your-hand practical stuff. A lot of what we talked about, what Apple needed, and what I think they did with their Apple Intelligence features, is deliver things that people think it's cool enough to show someone else that it's done it, right? That people, when they do it, they go, oh, that actually worked and made my life easier. It wasn't like overly complicated. It was something very tangible, practical things that they could do.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the stuff in here, some photo tools, live translate, all these kind of things that are really, again, it's either delivering a wow factor or it's delivering an immediate practical benefit that is designed to sell more phones. And it seems like Samsung is just continuing along that path, like all these companies are, of, hey, here's some more AI stuff we got. Here's some, hey, did you know we got this AI thing too? And to, I think, varying degrees of success, Samsung has been kind of ahead. They were the first phone, to my knowledge, that actually put image generative AI in their device. That was ahead of Google announcing it, certainly ahead of Apple announcing it. So they've kind of been on the forefront of doing this. And this is par for the course for Samsung. If something kind of works and they can be first, they're like, let's do it. There's so many things that Samsung has beat Apple to market with because everyone knew Apple or Google was working on it. And they're like, oh, we can just get ahead of them 6 months. And maybe our thing isn't as good, but at least we're first and can say that. That was, everything from consumer smartwatches, right? That Galaxy Watch was ahead of Apple there. Foldable flip kind of phones. I know there were some other, kind of these tertiary phone companies that made those, but they were the first kind of flagship people to look into that. A million other examples of that. That's what a lot of the stuff is now, I think.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that they talked about at this event is called Samsung Knox, and it's a security feature. And essentially, they call it defense-grade multi-layer security platform, a defense-grade multi-layer security platform. And it's supposed to safeguard critical information, protect against vulnerability, have end-to-end hardware, and real-time threat detection and stuff like that. I think this it could be a number of things. It could be just something they're working on and want to enable. But Apple has been so incredibly outspoken about safety being the thing and security being the thing with Apple AI and all of their intelligence features they're bringing. So Samsung's announcing all these and then going, also, here's this big suite of security features to make you feel secure, so that you look at Apple's event and you don't go, oh, well, I got to switch because that's secure. You go, oh, Samsung's secure as well. That's kind of my read on it. What are your thoughts on Knox?
First of all, I assume it's an allusion to Fort Knox as the code name, which I question if they're calling it that in all markets, because that's a weird kind of America-specific thing. Also, I think people don't even think about it anymore. Like Fort Knox is such like an antiquated thing to. We're not on the gold standard. Who cares what happens to gold in Fort Knox, right? It's meaningless. Also, there's a silent K in it. This is bad branding, Samsung.
Yeah,
I don't like a silent letter in a name for a product. Code name, that'd be cool. Knox is a cool code name. Knox a terrible product name. So ironically, Strawberry is a much better product name than a code name. Like it's, but neither here nor there. This is just them. They need to do this, right? Like they have to have that answer. This is what, when you are an Android person and you're even tempted to go to the Apple side, you need at least that plausible kind of deniability in your head to stay on the Android side. And it's like, oh, like Apple's got all the security. But yeah, you know what? Samsung just talked about this Knox thing. Like they got security too, right? All you need to do, you don't even have to convince people. You just have to pull that impulse back a little and then they won't switch, right? Because people rather just kind of stay in their safe zone. So you don't need to be better. You just need to create a certain amount of doubt in their mind about switching to another product or not buying your product. And that's how I think these kind of features do.
Yeah. But that said, I'm always on board for better security and safety in our phones.
That's great too.
You know?
I hope it's great. Yeah.
So let's hope that it is actually more than just a talking point. But maybe it would have been something they kind of enabled in these phones anyway, but now they're talking about it more and making more of a point to actually announce it. But next comes from another big tech company, Amazon, their Rufus AI. So if you're an Amazon user, you've already seen this pop up in the corner of your app because it is already there. It's been around for, I think, about a week now or so. And I haven't used it because I just kind of look and go, oh, man.
I used it when it popped up and I was like, oh, man, is this going to be an AI chatbot? And I clicked on it. I was like,
yep.
And now it even will give you Rufus suggestions. Rufus, I'm kind of okay with. I'm okay with that name. It means it obviously seems like it's a dog, right? And it's like helping you. It's your buddy, my buddy Rufus. I like that. I'm okay with this name. But what I'm not necessarily okay with is it's actually giving you suggested prompts even if you don't click on it. Have you seen that yet? So just like above the kind of the bottom menu in the Amazon app, it'll just have these like questions you would ask Rufus there. I assume to entice people to click on them. It's also, if you open it up, it's contextual to what you've been searching. I don't know if you've noticed that. So, which I think has, even though this is an obvious thing, it has some kind of creep factor to it a little. Yeah. Because it's all like, oh, I saw you looking at this. Here's some things you might have questions about with that. Let me help you with it some more. Kind of neat. I have been actually liking the AI review summaries that have been in Amazon. I was just going to say that, yeah. They've been there for a while. Months they've been there.
Yeah, those are pretty good.
I like those because it distills it pretty easily. And it always uses the same phrasing where it gives the positive stuff and it'll go, but some users find, and then it gives you like two negative things. And it lets you instantly, because you can kind of read it like, oh, like those negative things are for lame people who didn't know. Like if it's always like installation was hard, I'm like, you didn't read the instructions. You're probably lame. You know? So I think that's been very helpful. I'm not sure if I'm really going to use Rufus. The other problem is that it only knows as much knowledge as it's been trained on. So a lot of times when I do have questions about a product, it's so hyper specific. It's not on the product information page. What is the AI going to know that I'm not going to, like how's that even going to be able to figure stuff out? So it seems a little like more flash than substance now, but maybe it'll pan out to something.
Yeah, it is tough with Amazon now because it's gotten to this point where we know a lot of those reviews are bought at this point, because I'm sure we've all gotten a product where we get a little thing and it's like, oh, get a $20 gift card if you leave a 5-star review and email us and tell us that you left a 5-star review. So people are doing that and just leaving a great review because they want something back from that. And so that has already kind of gamed the review system. But I think reviews are overall hopefully still fairly reliable, and then you see the product that's most reviewed and all that stuff. But then you also have sponsored products on Amazon now. So yeah, how much is Rufus going to be involved in all of that? Is Rufus my buddy, or is he the Amazon buddy that's going, hey, buy the more expensive version of this thing?
I was in prep for this. I was just kind of messing around with it. He seems to be Amazon's buddy, man.
Yeah.
Like it suggests stuff to you too. Like it'll be like, oh, have you considered this? And this is why you should consider this. Like it's kind of like, oh, that's a little. I don't know about shady's not the right word, but it's definitely a sales tool, not I think a consumer helpful tool.
Yeah. So that's important to keep in mind. And that will be a tough thing with people trusting AIs in general. Is we're going to be getting them forced onto us like this, in a sense, where we're like, I don't really trust this because it's from Amazon. So then do we know that we can trust certain ones? Do we just kind of not trust them across the board? How is that going to work? This will be interesting to see develop. I'll play around with this one because I do use Amazon. So
well, yeah, like every human, I order a ton of stuff from Amazon. So especially like here in LA, you can get same day delivery on almost everything.
Yeah,
like it's within like 2 hours, you can have almost anything you could possibly want.
It's pretty crazy.
It actually is crazy. I was like, this is nuts. I remember this happened just this week. I woke up and I was like, oh, you know what? I forgot to order more coffee. And I was like, oh, let me order it now so I can have coffee tomorrow. And the coffee was delivered before I was making my coffee. Like it was like, it was probably like 40 minutes. And like, which, I mean, it's free. It's still free Prime delivery. So it's not even like using DoorDash or something where you're paying for this stuff. It just shows up.
Yeah. And you see sometimes it shows up and it's just a person in a normal car as well.
Oh, it always is that guy, especially when it's like that 4 a.m. delivery they do, like it's super early one.
Yeah.
It's just some dude and he's like, hey man, I got your coffee. I'm like, oh, thanks, dude.
Yeah, so we'll see what comes of Rufus.
Here's a recommendation for you guys. Maybe for you too. I don't know. Did you watch Silicon Valley, the HBO show? Yeah, I've been rewatching it.
Yeah,
and it's funny. Like, man, just time's a flat circle. I mean, that show's 10 years old now.
Yeah,
the first season of it, and the things they're excited and talking about then are the things that were hyped in. But you can basically like swap out robotics and AI like into what they're talking about, and then it will like all still plays out the same. We're just like rich people wasting money to try to develop a thing, doing stuff that's maybe not necessarily good for consumers but great for the stockholders, all that kind of stuff. So every time I see these little companies pop up, it reminds me of that kind of vibe where it's all like, oh, somewhere in here there's probably great engineering that's trying to be marketed and PR'd up so they can raise the stock price somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot coming in this regard, and there's a much deeper discussion to have at another point about what it means for labor and jobs and the good and the bad that will come with all of that. Hopefully it's going to be first enabling people to have better jobs, I guess, and eliminating these jobs that are putting people in danger and stuff, in dangerous situations. But it's hard to look at a company like Amazon developing this technology and not think that they're probably not going to be valuing the customer or the employees that they have. So we will see what comes of all this. But those are the main AI features or AI developments coming from major tech companies this week.